iOS 19 is less than 1 month away, and in this video, I want to talk about my favorite features that I'm looking most forward to in iOS 19. Hi everyone, Mr. Hawkins with Hawkins Tech, and this is iOS 19, my favorite features I'm looking most forward to. Now, in iOS 19, I did a video earlier on some of the accessibility features that we're going to get. I'm not going to go into all of them, but if you go into the App Store, you scroll down to your apps. Under Link to You, it will now tell you what specific accessibility features that are in those apps. I just wanted to mention that, and I do think that is a really nice change in iOS 19. But the thing that I am absolutely most excited for is the redesigned circular icons, or somewhat circular. For years, we've always had the squared icons on iOS for years, but we could have somewhat circular icons, sort of maybe rounded icons. See if I have any pictures of it here. They're not going to be too circular, but they might be square, but they might be extremely rounded. They won't look like how they look now. I'm going to see if I can find a picture of what the icons will look like. So in iOS 19, this is what the icons could look like. They're more, I would say they're more rounded here. Some of these images don't show it in full detail. Basically, we could have more rounded icons while not completely circle, but they could be a little bit more rounded. But I am looking forward to this change in iOS 19. I don't think the Photos app will get a massive redesign like it did in iOS 18, but maybe they can change up some of these options and maybe make it more simpler for some people. But I do love the current redesign that we do have. I'm not sure what redesign Apple could put on this device, as we haven't heard any leaks and rumors of the new Photos app. Now, a lot of the animations are going to be updated in iOS 19, and I use the Apple Sports app for demonstration. If I go into the Sports app here, every animation is a pull-up animation. With certain ones, you sort of pull out from it sort of pulls out from its corner, instead of when you go into something, it just opens up. It would be nice if it pulls out within its section. That's a really nice change. Hopefully we get that in iOS 19, where they update some of the animations. Now there is leaks and rumors saying that settings could also receive an update, and that's also sort of with those animations. But the other update that I just found out about, that the search bar, the spotlight search, the search bar could be moved to the bottom, and a lot of the elements in the App Store, like how we have the current tab bar here, this tab bar that's been on iOS for many years, is looking like in iOS 19, it could be floating. kind of like how it was in Safari in the early iOS 15 betas before they sort of removed that and added these sort of buttons to it. It was a floating tab bar. But that is something that I hope they bring back in iOS 19. Now, I don't know if Control Center might get an update. It could potentially get more updates to sort of fix scrolling in the Control Center, although it scrolls pretty good. But early iOS 18 versions, every time I would scroll in here, my iPhone would respring, but thankfully that no longer happens. But sometimes it can be a little bit laggy, I feel like, when scrolling in the Control Center. If it's laggy for you, comment down below. It's not laggy for me, but it used to be really, really, really laggy when scrolling in the Control Center in iOS 19, or iOS 18 rather. One thing I really hope they bring to iOS 19 is the ability to delete older lock screens and have a faster way to do that. Currently, if you have like so many lock screens, you have to scroll all the way to the left. It would be easier to have a lock screen gallery where you can scroll down and maybe select multiple lock screens at a time to delete all of the lock screens you no longer need. Kind of similar to how in the Photos app, let me switch back to my current wallpaper. If I want to delete many photos, all you have to do is just click on them, or you can just drag on them individually like this. Hopefully, Apple brings that functionality to the lock screens with a lock screen gallery and the ability to select many lock screens at a time in iOS 19. Now, there's also another feature that I'm looking most forward to, and that's when you plug an iPhone into an external monitor. Now, this seems a little bit strange, as you never could really imagine iPad-like multitasking, but on an iPhone. But this will only happen when you plug the iPhone into an external monitor, and you will get some Stage Manager-like features. And speaking of iPad, we have some things to talk about with the iPad as well. There is some features we're expected to get with iPadOS 19 as well. Now, one of the features that we're going to get on the iPad is if we plug into an external monitor or a keyboard, we're going to get sort of like a banner that resembles macOS. And Stage Manager may also automatically appear as well. Now, I don't think it will work on this particular iPad. This is my iPad Air 4th generation from 2020. I showed it off in a lot of my videos, but some of the Stage Manager features probably won't work on this device, but it already does have great multitasking support, even in they won't really work 100% in the app switcher. When I drag one app, it removes the app. It won't let me put 3 apps in the multitasker when I'm in the app switcher. So hopefully we get updates to that in iOS 19. But multitasking does work good for me on the iPad Air. And the Photos app, a lot of people were really frustrated with this app for how much of a mess it would have looked. But me personally, I do love this app. But I've showed this off in many videos. If you want to change up the Photos app and you just want to make it feel more like iOS 17, you go down to Customize and Reorder and delete the options you have, and that will make the app feel more like iOS 17. But I like to keep everything enabled, or what I do have enabled, as I do like the current look of the Photos app. Now, it's also rumored that we're going to get some updates to different applications with the tab bar, where on the iPhone it's said to be floating. Well, I feel like they could bring that to the iPad as well, but we already have a floating tab bar. But you see, it does have sort of some skin around the tab bar. Let me turn on light mode here. But it is floating in a way. But if I go into the Home app, you can see here that it's floating. And it's just like that in Safari. As I have the compact tab bar enabled. And what I do like is when I go into websites, so say I go into Yahoo, for instance. Oh, it's not working on this website. I like that the tab sort of changes color to try to match the website banner. You can see it's blue for this website here. And I do think that is pretty nice. But we are still getting those circular icons, or those sort of rounded icons that are more rounded than these icons. They might look almost circular, but they're not going to be entirely circular, as some of the leaks and rumors mentioned. So as far as what other features we could see in iOS 19, well, those are a lot of the main features. We're expected to have circular icons, more multitasking, and Mac-like multitasking for iPad with circular icons as well, and more floating sort of UI elements when you go into different apps. The tab bar is expected to be floating. And of course, iOS 19 is releasing on June 9th. And I will keep you up to date with the newest information about iOS 19. Whether or not I will be installing the beta, I will say right now it's kind of hard to say. As if I'm not upgrading this device, then I won't install the beta. If I have my iPhone 12 and my iPad Air, then I'm keeping them on a stable version of software. However, if I upgrade to a newer iPhone whilst also keeping this iPhone 12, then I will use this 12 as my beta testing device, installing iOS 19. And of course, it will be shown off at WWDC, where you can then install it at beta.apple.com. But I will have a video on June 8th showing you how to prepare to update and everything you need to know before you install iOS 19. It's probably less than a month away, but we are a couple weeks away from iOS 19. And even if I don't install the beta, expect tons of videos about iOS 19. I will keep you up to date of whatever features are in iOS 19 if I do or don't install the beta. So make sure you guys like, comment, and subscribe to my YouTube channel. And I will see you guys in the next video.